They say jealousy is the shadow of love, a dark, possessive ghost that trails behind even the happiest relationships. But what if that's wrong? What if jealousy isn't a shadow at all? What if it's a spotlight illuminating a hidden desire you never dared to name? This is the story of how I found out another woman wanted my husband, and how, instead of getting angry, I got curious. And then reckless. But before we get into this twisted little tale of temptation and truth, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. The heart is complicated, but we're not afraid to go there. It started with a message, just one, a tiny notification on my husband's phone. Glowing in the dark like a dropped match. We had just made LuvReal love. The kind that leaves you breathless and glowing, tangled in sheets and silence. I was reaching for his phone, about to show him a yoga video I'd bookmarked, something playful. A stretch I thought we could try together. Then her name popped up, Amber. You. We're hilarious in the meeting today. I swear you always make my day better. I froze. I knew her name young, knew bright tide. He'd mentioned her once or twice. A coworker. Harmless, I'd assumed, but as I scrolled through their texts, the subtext was anything but harmless. She wasn't overt, nothing you could screenshot and call inappropriate. But it was there, the late-night messages, the emoji-laced compliments, the careful flirtation. And what struck me most? Liam wasn't shutting it down. He wasn't crossing any lines, but he wasn't drawing any either. His responses were polite but open. And maybe, oh, just maybe, he liked the attention. You? No, she's flirting with you, right? I said, not accusing, just stating a fact. Liam looked over, still flushed from earlier, a grin tugging at his lips. Who, Amber? I held up the phone, winky face and everything. He blinked, a flicker of guilt crossing his face. She's just friendly. Like that with everyone. Does everyone tell you you light up their afternoons? He laughed, nervously. I guess I didn't think much of it. It's okay, I whispered, brushing my leg against his. You like being the hot older guy in the office. He tried not to laugh, but the truth was in his eyes. Maybe he did like it. Maybe he needed it. And honestly, maybe I did too. I leaned in, fingers tracing his chest. It's all right, babe. I'd flirt with you too. His smile grew, and I kissed him again. Now, I whispered against his lips, let me show you something better than a winky face. I never did show him the yoga move. The next morning, sunlight poured through the windows, but he was already gone, out early. A client meeting, out of town. He wouldn't be at the office, but Amber would. I lay in bed longer than usual, staring at the ceiling, picturing her, laughing at his jokes, lingering near his desk. I wasn't jealous, I was intrigued. Liam didn't know what she really wanted, but I did. And I also knew what he wanted, what he'd never say out loud. A secret whispered years ago after two. Much wine. A third. A shared partner. It had been a fantasy then, just talk. But now with Amber lighting up his screen, the fantasy felt closer. Tangible. Possible. And I couldn't stop thinking about it, so I picked up his phone. Found her number. My hands were steady. My pulse was not .me. Hey, Amber, this is Liam's wife, Amelia. Strange message, I know. But any chance you're free this afternoon? Just want to talk. Nothing bad, I promise. She replied almost instantly. Amber, sure. Is everything okay? Me? All good. Bring coffee. And maybe have a good excuse ready to leave work early. I stared at the message for a long time after I sent it. The game was no longer theoretical, and I wasn't entirely sure who I was becoming. But one thing was certain, she didn't make me wait. She showed up at my front door about 30 minutes later. A tray with 2 large coffees in her hand, her face a mask of nervous energy. She was pretty with bright, intelligent eyes and arstless energy that was both endearing and a little chaotic. She said, her voice a little breathless. Hey, is mild. my own demeanor a deliberate calming contrast to her anxiety. Come on in. She stepped inside, her eyes darting around our home, taking everything in. You're even prettier than I remembered from the holiday party, I told her honestly as she set the coffee down on the kitchen counter. Oh, thanks, she stammered clearly, thrown off balance. Don't be shy, I said, leaning against the counter. I get it. Get watch asked her guard immediately up the massages. I said simply how you talk. Tohim, the emojis. She froze, the color draining from her face. I didn't mean anything by that. I swear we're just friends. I'm not mad, I said, calmly cutting off her panicked explanation. At all, she stared at me, her brow furrowed in utter confusion. I took a step closer, closing the space between us. Just think, I said, my voice dropping lower, that if you're going to flirt with my husband, you should learn how to do it properly. She blinked. What does that mean? It means, I said, reaching up and gently brushing a stray strand of hair back from her face, I have a proposition for you. And then I kissed her. It was a soft, intentional, unapologetic kiss, autist. When I pulled away, she didn't move. She didn't slap me or run out the door. She just stood there, her lips parted, her breath shallow. Her wide eyes locked on mine, as if she wasn't sure if she was dreaming or had simply lost her mind. And in her stillness, I had my answer. I was right. I trailed my hand on her arm. My touch, gentle, you're okay, I said softly. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. She swallowed hard, her gaze, searching Minnie for something. Doubt permission, Mababoth. But you kissed me. I nodded, and I meant it. I leaned in and kissed her again, slower this time. And this time she didn't just stand there. I didn't. I felt her body soften into mine, her hand drifting tentatively tummy waist, her lips responding to mine with a shy, burgeoning curiosity. When I asked her t-shirt upward, she raised her arms without a word, a silent act of surrender. Her skin was warm and smooth beneath my hands, and the delicate lascibra she wore underneath made me wonder if she'd worn it just in case, a secret thope for a day just like this. Adinask. I lifted the shirt over her head, my fingers grazing the bare skin of Taze. Her back as the fabric slipped free. Her brafalo then, the rest one layer at a time. A slow, reverent unveiling, until she was stretched out on the living room rug. The afternoon sun painting patterns in her skin. There was nothing left between us. I took my time. This wasn't about conquest. It was about discovery. My lips moved over her collarbone, then down to her chest, tracing slow, deliberate lines along her ribs. Her stomach, the soft, sensitive skin of hair in her thigh. Her breathing quickened with every inch, her fingers tightening slightly. In the plush fibers of the rug, when I moved lower, my focus shifting to the place where I knew she needed me most. She was already trembling. I didn't rush. I simply listened to her beating, to her breathing, to the quiet, helpless sound. She couldn't hold in, her hips lifted slightly off the floor, an unspoken invitation. I learned the unique rhythm of her pleasure. What made her breathe like that? What made her back arch? Her hands gripped the rug, her knuckles white, and then she let go, a quiet, complete unraveling. Every part of her giving in at once. I stayed there for a long moment, resting my head near her hip as she gently, almost unconsciously tangled her fingers in my hair. That was, she whispered, her voice breathy and uneven. I know, murmured against her skin, just breathe. The room stayed still for a while after that. The only sound, the soft ticking off clock on the mantel. I eventualized that at my fingertips, trailing lightly along the curve of her side. She turned head toward me, her cheeks still flushed a pretty pink. I've never done anything like that before, she confessed. Smiled. You handled it beautifully. Sheladada's soft, breathless laugh. You're a dangerous. Not really, I said, tilting me head. Just generous. She hesitated, a new boldness in her eyes. Can I? I didn't answer with words. I just leaned back, letting the straps of my own dress slide off my shoulders. She understood. Her touch started out light, almost timid, as she explored my collarbone, my waist, following the shape of me like she was, learning a new and fascinating glang. She kissed me again, slower this time, more certain, more confident. Then she slipped my dress the rest of the way off and let her hands roam, taking her time, as if memorizing every detail of my body. I lay back watching her, letting her explore, guiding her with the soft sounds I made. When her lips reached my stomach, she paused, looking up at me for confirmation. I gave her a small nod. She kissed the skin just below my navel, then followeth, lined downward with her lips. I felt warm, wet brush of her breath and thaw her mouth. My hand drifted into the softness of her hair. She started gentle, still learning, but every sound I made, every hitch in my breath gave her direction, and she kept going, growing bolder. I let go completely, my head tilted back. My breathing quickened the tension, building with every passing second, until it became an unbearably exquisite ache. I curled forward as everything hit at once, the rug tight in me grip, a sound escaping my lips. I couldn't quite keep in. She crawled back up beside me, her face glowing with acquiescent triumphant pride. We did eat speak. We didn't need to. We just stayed there for a long time, wrapped around each other on the floor. The sheets of 4 former lives tangled and discarded around us. I told you I had apprehension, I murmured finally, brushing a damp strand of hair behind her ear. She smiled, against my shoulder. I thought you meant like you wanted me to stop texting your husband. I was about to answer when we both heard it. The sound of the front door opening downstairs. Liam, he was home early. Amber stiffened beside me, her eyes wide with panic. I didn't. I met her gaze with a calm, reassuring smile. Relax, I said, my voice a steady anchor in her sea of fear. This part's for him. Footsteps climbed the stairs. A moment later, he appeared in the doorway of the living room, his briefcase still in his hand. He stopped dead, his eyes widening in disbelief as he took in the scene before him. His wife and his worker naked and tangled together on the floor. He stood in the doorway as if he'd walked into a dream and wasn't sure he was supposed to be there. I rose from the floor, slow and deliberate, through whites of Amber's mouth still humming under my skin. I didn't speak. I just walked to him, my movements fluid and confident. I took the briefcase from his unresisting hand and set it on Theffler. Then I kissed him, a soft, sure, inviting kiss that tasted off promises and secrets. He didn't move at first, his body rigid with shock. But when I began to unbutton his shirt, pushing it from his broad shoulders, let it fall to the floor in a heap. When I knelt to undo his belt, he let out a sharp, ragged breath. And when I stood, took his hand, and led him toward Thebe, where Amber was now sitting up, her hair soiled, watching him with a mixture of wide-eyed curiosity and raw nerves. Aloud, silent and stunned. I looked at Amber. Help me, I said softly. She nodded and moved toward him as I urged him to sit on the edge of the bed. I kissed his neck, my lips trailing down his shoulder as she knelt before him. Heg speed the moment her soft hair brushed into skin, his hands gripping the sheets, his chest lifting beneath my touch. It's okay, I whispered in his ear, my voice a soothing balm on his frayed nerves. Let us take care of you. His body twitched. Under her touch, his breath catching in his throat. Hal looked at me, his eyes dazed, stunned. I kissed him again, deeper this time, steadying him as she continued her ganal exploration. His hand found the small of my back, gripping me tightly. He stroked his hair and whispered, "You're redoing so well." His head tilted back. He moaned softly. Broken, helpless sound. Amber looked up at me, her lips wet, her eyes wide. With a shared sense of wonder and power, I smiled at her. Now it's your turn. I say lie back. I gently guided him totally back on the bed. Amber stretched out beside him, her breath shallow, her legs sparting just enough. She looked up at them, her expression uncertain. "He's nervous," I told her softly. "So, are you? But you both want this." I turned to Liam, took his hand, and placed it on Amber's thigh. "She wants you," he whispered. "Go to her." He nodded slowly, a man in a trance, and climbed over her with a deliberate, reverent care, cheered up for him as he settled above her, her hands trembling slightly. Clicked beside them on the bed, my hand resting on the small of his back. "Time," I whispered. "There's Noresh." She reached for him, guiding him, and their bodies met with a soft sigh. He froze for a second, a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. I leaned in close. "It's okay," I murmured. "She can take you." His hips eased forward, and Amber moaned a low guttural sound, her fingers tightening at his sides. "She's more than ready for you," I whispered into his shoulder, my lips brushing his skin. "See how she holds you?" He began to move slow and steady at first, and Amber gasped beneath him, her body rising to meet his. I climbed over her carefully, one knee at a time, positioning myself just above her mouth. He paused to adjust, making room for me, and then her lips began to move, and I felt the warm, wet heat of her mouth, and I gasped, dropping my hands to his chest as he thrust deeper. I leaned in to kiss him, our mouths meeting just above the electric tension building between us. "You're inside her," he whispered between kisses, "and she's inside me. Can you feel us both?" Hunted at his breath, shaking his eyes squeezed shut. "A man!" Completely lost and found between the two of us. Eventually, I slid off and let them breathe. "Your turn," I said to Amber, guiding her up. "Take control." She climbed on top of Feem, her movements more confident now, and eased herself down. Her own, breath catching as she settled onto him. His head fell back against the pillows, high size wide, his hands finding her hips. She started to move slow and cautious at first, then finding her rhythm rockingly, her hair falling forward like accortain. I kissed his cheeks, stroked his chest, watched his muscles tighten on her. "She's beautiful like this." I whispered my voice for his ears only. "Isn't she?" He couldn't answer. He was breathing too fast, blinking like Heckle didn't believe any of this was real. Amber picked up her speed, and his hands slid along her sides, barely holding on. I leaned close, kissed his neck, and whispered in his ear, "Taken, loved. That's what you are right now." His mouth parted. Amber gasped above him, her breath matching his. I watched them both, his jaw clenching, her body rising and lowering in a perfect intoxicating writhe. I saw it building in him, his hands tightened around her waist, his breath caught. "It's close," I whispered to her. Amber didn't stop. She kept moving, holding him right there on that exquisite edge. I cupped his face in my hands and kissed him hard. "Finish him, baby," I whispered to her. Amber dropped down once more, her breath unsteady, swelled body tensed, his head pressed back into the mattress, his fingers locking around her, a sound escaping. His throat, half breath, half surrender, and then, "Hell it, go." Amber collapsed on top of him, both of them breathless and spent. I curled up beside them, brushing his damp hair from his forehead. His eyes finally fluttered open, looking at me with a dazed, profound gratitude. I kissed Hyman's more, a slow, deep kiss full of fevery promise I had just kept. Then he whispered, "That's what you get for being such a good husband." So, be honest. If you walked into your bedroom and soft it, would you hesitate or would you jump right? And what would you do in his place? Tell me your honest thoughts in the comments. I'll be reading. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and again, thanks for listening.